Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Now, today's video is our year-long crochet along where we're doing a magnet that can also be an applique for our home pillow or home wall hanging, as you saw there in the beginning. And each month we are making a coffee cup in a different style to put on our home pillow. All right, now you can find the pattern for the home pillow and wall hanging underneath this video. And again, that is a free Ravelry download as well as the video. And then each cup each month is also a free Ravelry download. I wanted you to have them for free so you can download the pattern and follow along with us. All right, so this was January's cup. This was February. This was March. And now we're at April. And my inspiration for our April coffee mug or cup was April showers bring May flowers. So we designed a little pastel rainbow cup. And I have a cup that looks kind of like this. I should have grabbed it. It is a darker rainbow, but I wanted to go with the pastels. And then I found these cute buttons, but we'll talk about yarns and buttons in just a few minutes. All right. So this is our April cup of the month. And again, you can make it a pin, and I'm using this stitch holder to pin them onto my wall hanging, or you can make it into a magnet. Let me show you the back of this one. All right. And if you don't want to make the wall hanging or pillow, you don't have to. You can still make the magnets each month and put them on your fridge or something metal. Now I have put together a playlist, and in that playlist you will find the links for the videos for the home pillow and hanger. You'll also find a link added each month for each of the cups, and I will continue to add those each month so you can easily find all the videos for all the coffee cup mugs and appliques, because these can be used in lots of different ways. Now you can find the complete pattern with pictures for today's pattern also down in those notes underneath this video. All right, let's talk about what you're going to need to make today's magnet or applique. So the yarn that I used is all medium weight number 4 acrylic. I just got in my yarn stash and grabbed out a light pink, a light yellow, a light blue, and a light lavender. Medium weight number 4 acrylic yarns. And again, you can use any medium weight number 4 yarn you want. You can even use cotton if you prefer, long as it's a medium weight number 4. All right. And the order that I did these, I'm going to be doing the demo in a different order. That way you can see the difference in using them differently, okay? And you just need a small amount of 4 different colors. You can even go with bright colors or stripe it in 3 stripes instead of 4. Just do whatever that you want to and whatever yarns that you have on hand. Now, I added this cute little umbrella button because April showers, right? So I found a pack that had some little umbrellas. This one is kind of a white color. But I'm thinking for my other magnet, I want to use this little duck. Isn't that cute? It's like a little rubber duck. I think it'd be super cute on my coffee mug. But you can use whatever button that you want. And if you don't want to use a button, you don't have to. You can add a little applique or something that you'd rather do on there. I just thought it'd be super fun just to hot glue a button right on the front. You can sew it on, but I'm using hot glue for that, okay? Now let's talk about magnets real quick. These are the magnets that I'm using. They're a little round magnet. You can see I hot glued that on there. Okay, and I bought this pack. It had 12 pieces in it, so I've got one for each month. But if you want to go to your refrigerator and find leftover magnets from things like shopping lists and things like that, you can use whatever magnets that you want. Just peel the back off and hot glue it onto the back of your coffee mug. Now, let's talk about this right here. This is the sticky felt, and I like using it on these, especially if you're going to use it as a magnet, because it gives it a nice finish on the back, especially one like this where we've changed colors a little bit. And it also gives you a nice surface area to add on your magnet, okay? And so what I did is I just traced around it. Let me show you on here. I'll show you more about this later. And then I cut it a little bit smaller so that it'll fit on the back. And we want to make sure, if we're going to use this as an applique onto our pillow or wall hanging, we want it to be removable. And that's where I use this. This is a stitch holder for knitting stitches. But you can just use a safety pin if you want to. One friend of mine is using the Velcro. I didn't want to use Velcro because I didn't want it left on my pillow, because you have to put a piece on the pillow or the wall hanging as well as on the back of your magnet applique. And I thought, well, what if I just want to use the pillow without the magnet or without the wall hanging? I'll have that little piece of Velcro on there, and so I'm not going to do it that way. But that's just some options for you to do. Now, we're going to be stitching up our magnet with an H hook, which is a 5mm. Okay? And then besides that, you're going to need your scissors. Oh, and don't forget, you're going to need a needle also to weave in those ends. And if you prefer to sew your button on, you can. Now, the glue I'm using is just your basic hot glue, and it's warmed up, so I'm just going to put it like this so it doesn't drip. It's just my regular hot glue. It's called the Cool Shot, and I have several different hot glue guns, but I really like that one. We're going to be starting at the bottom and just work our way across, and then we'll stitch the whole outside and then come back around and do the handle, and then we'll add our cute button. All right, so I'm doing this one different. I'm going to start with the yellow instead of the light blue. But of course, it stitches up the same. All right, so I've made my slip knot, and I'm going to chain 11 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now we're going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then 1 in each of those remaining. The nice thing about most of these magnets is they're mostly stitched in single crochet. Eight, 9, and 10 single crochets and chain 1. All right, so row 1, we chained 11. We started in the second chain from the hook, stitched 1 in each across, and chain 1. So we have 10 single crochets. All right, now we're ready for row 2. We've chained 1. We're going to turn our work. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so we'll go right in that first stitch and stitch 1 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Chain 1 and turn, and we're just going to repeat that one more time. 1 single crochet in each of our single crochets across, and so again we'll have 10 single crochets. All right, now we have 10 single crochets for all of our first 3 rows, but we're not going to chain 1 because we're going to change to our next color. All right, so I'm going to bring in my next color, and I'm going to use this nice pink next. All right, so I brought that in and chain 1. And with changing colors 4 times, we are going to have a little bit of weaving in to do. But that's what makes putting that backer on really nice, because it covers up some of that we have to weave in. All right, let's turn our work, and we're just going to repeat what we did for 2 more rows. So 1 single crochet in each of those 10 stitches for 2 more rows. Oops. There we go. So I've done 10, chain 1 and turn, and I'm just going to repeat that again. 1 single crochet in each of those 10 single crochets. All right, we'll go ahead and chain 1. And what I do on the side here is I go ahead and just do what I call a stay knot. You're not tying a knot, you're just putting those 2 together to keep that from coming undone until we can come back in and weave that in. All right, so now we're at row 5, and we've done 2 more rows of just 1 double crochet in each with our color 2. Now for row 6, we're going to do what's called stitching 2 single crochets together, or a decrease stitch. All right, so we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch the first 2 together. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. So we've taken our first 2 stitches and made them 1. Now we're going to single crochet across until we reach the last 2 stitches, and then we'll repeat what we did at the beginning. All right, so now I have 2 stitches left, so we'll go in, pull up a loop, go in the last one, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops and chain 1. So now on row 6 we only have 8 single crochets because we decreased at the beginning and end of our row. Now we're going to be changing colors for row 7. So we're going to take out that chain 1. We're going to cut our yarn. And now we're going to bring in our 3rd color. All right. And we always do our chain 1 after the color change. That way we don't have a little spot of the pink in the blue, or like the yellow in the pink. Okay, we'll snug that down and turn our work. All right, now we're going to stitch the first 2 together on row 7 as well. All right, so we'll go in, pull up a loop, go in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 of those. Now we'll stitch till we get to the last 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll stitch the last 2 together and chain 1 because we're not changing colors. And see how we're making that come in for the shape of our cup? So now for row 7 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. We're not going to decrease anymore. We chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're just going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and chain 1. All right, so now for row 9, we're going to increase. So we've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in this first stitch. 1 and, 2. Then we'll stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to stitch 2 in the last stitch. 1 and 2. We're not going to chain 1 because we're going to be changing colors. But for row 9, see, row 7 we had 6, row 8 we had 6, and now on row 9 we have 8 because we're increasing again in order to make the form of that coffee cup. So I've cut my blue yarn, and I'm going to bring in my lavender because that's my last color, and chain 1 and make sure everything's snug down there. All right, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in that first stitch. 1 and 2. And then we'll stitch 1 in each across and then 2 in the last. And that brings us back up to our 10 single crochets. A little more yarn out here. There we go. One and 2 and chain 1. So now we're back up to 10 single crochets. And although we have all these strings, you can still see the shape of our cup forming. All right, so what we're going to do now, we chained 1, we're going to turn our work and stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Chain 1 and turn and repeat. 1 single crochet in each of these 10. And I know as you're working this, you're thinking, that's a lot of weaving in to do. And if you do not want to make it the 4 colors of the rainbow that we're doing, you can do this all in one color, or you could use an ombre or a variegated. Just do whatever that you want to. Use your imagination, but I really love it in the pastel rainbow colors. All right, so we did those last 2 rows. That brings us up to row 12, and again, you can see the shape of that cup. It's really cute. Now we're going to be using our main color, or whatever color that you want to use for the trim and the handle. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and weave in all these ends. All right, so when we bring in our yellow, just so that you understand, we'll bring it in, we'll chain 1 and turn our work. This will be the front of your cup. We're going to stitch across all the way around and then add that handle. So we want to make sure that we weave those ends in on the back side. So I took a few minutes and I weaved in all the ends on the back. So it's nice and neat. The only end we'll have left with, of course, is the yellow one. Or whatever you're using for your trim, of course. All right, so we're going to first start just by single crocheting in each of those stitches across for the top of our coffee mug. Now we're going to just evenly single crochet down this edge. All right. We'll just follow the line, make it nice and neat. There we go. Trying to get in those stitches and not holes. See how it you just follow the line, the shape of the mug. All right, we're at the bottom. And of course we have those chain stitches to stitch in. So we'll just stitch across, because this is where we started. This might be done really pretty if you use a white yarn, then it would represent the clouds. So many options. All right, so we stitch down, around the side, across the bottom, and now we're going to stitch up the other side. Whoops, get in there. Likes to jump off my hook. Alrighty, so I'm just going to continue up here and join back to my first single crochet. Now we have completed stitching all the way around with single crochets. We joined to our first single crochet and chained 1. Now we're going to do the handle. So we're going to turn our work. We're going to slip stitch in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we're going to skip the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and join to the 7th stitch with a slip stitch and chain 1. So make sure that your handle is right where you want it to be. We're going to turn our work, and around this chain we're going to stitch 8 single crochets. 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we'll join right to that next slip stitch with a slip stitch. There's our handle. And we'll cut our yarn. And so now all we have to do, there's how it looks at the front. Super cute. And all we have to do now is to weave in these 2 ends, and then I'll show you how to finish up. All right, now we just need to do the finishing touches on our coffee cup magnet. So I have cut this out. You can see it's a little bit smaller. And like I said, I just drew around it onto the sticky felt, and then I cut it about a 1/2 inch in. So I want to make sure it's going to cover up nicely, but we also want to leave this space at the top if you want to use a pen or something to put it onto your pillow or wall hanging. And I really like using that knit stitch holder. I think it works great. All right, so I'm peeling off the back. I want to make sure that I leave that room at the top, but we also don't want it to come off the end. I'm sticking off a little there, so I'm just going to trim it. There we go. And the purpose of this is twofold. It covers up some of the mess on the back, and then it also makes it a little bit more sturdy when we put it onto our refrigerator. All right, so I'm going to grab my glue gun here, and I got the little piece of cardboard I used just to keep it from melting on my table. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to use this little duck. On this one I used the little umbrella, but on this one I'm going to use a little duck. I think it looks good on here. All right, I'm going to center it, so I'm going to put a little glob of glue down there. All right, and I'll just push that on there. Oh man, don't do what I just did. But that's okay. Once it's dry, I can pull that little sticky spot off. Oh my goodness. All right, so my duck is on there. I'm going to turn this over, but I've got that sticky spot, so I'm going to use my cardboard. Don't do what I just did. Alrighty, now I'm going to put my magnet on. So I'm going to put a nice little glob right in the center there. There we go. And I like to use a lot of hot glue because I want what I'm putting on here to stick. Alright? There we go. I grabbed 2 magnets by mistake. Alright. I didn't drop my magnet. And we'll give that a couple minutes to dry. Alright. This is probably dry enough I can peel that off, but I'll wait. Just don't do what I did. Don't drop your button. Alright, so here is my adorable April Showers magnet in applique. It is a little bit taller, and I'm liking making them just a smidge bigger. One thing you can do if you don't want them this big is you can go down to a light 3 yarn and go down a hook size to maybe a 4.5 millimeter if you don't want them the size. And I believe from what I measured it was 3 inches across and 4 inches tall. All right. Now I'm going to set this one aside since it's got wet on the front and the back and let it dry. And since this one is done, and I want to put this one on my pillow anyway, or my hanging thing. And like I said, you can use a safety pin, Velcro, you know, whatever you want. But I just love using these. They're super fun and easy to use because you can just slide it right through those stitches. And I don't go through every one. I go through like every other one. And like this, and you can hook it right on from this onto your pillow. All right. Super cute. All right, I think that's dry enough. I can turn it over. There are the 2. You can see they're not exactly the same, but they're similar because I changed colors differently. Isn't that fun? I just love them. I think they're adorable, and I think the shape is super fun. So that's our April mug for our home crochet along. April Showers next month brings May flowers. So we're going to do something flowery for next month. All right. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you next time.